Hey there, fellow Patriots. Welcome back to another show. We've got a special guest coming in today. The one and only Ray Studios joining us for today. What's up, Ray? How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks for having me on. I know you haven't done a video in a few months or something like that. I know from what you told me outside of this, you've been pretty busy with life and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to make this work because you tried to get me on, was it a week or two ago, and wasn't able to. But now you got things set up right and was able to come, and I was able to come on. So yeah, thanks for having me on, brother.
Got some free time. Got some now that certain things have lined up and we've completed certain things. I'll be getting back into the mix of things, and so it's a pleasure to have you on. And honestly, I've been looking forward to talking about this particular subject matter for a while. It does realm into politics. It has to do with identity politics, which is still politics, and that seems to be embedded in just about everything from work to entertainment to sports, etc. So we're gonna jump in. Let's hit our first comment, and I have a guy that I recently started following. His name's Gary over at nerdrotic.com. Shout out to Gary. And you're a fan of his, right?
I've been a fan of his for years because I've been a Geeks and Gamers fan for years. That's how Geeks and Gamers is how I found out about not just Gary but also Eric July as well. That's how I found out.
Nice. I do follow Eric July as well. I'm a big fan of his. I have his comics. I did purchase his comics. I can't wait for him to come out with some more stuff. So shout out to Eric July as well.
I also just bought yesterday. I believe I finally bought it. I haven't had a chance to buy it for months, but I was able to buy it yesterday.
I bought all 3 covers and I gave each one to my boys, and so they have it now as a collector's item. So I'm looking for big things from Rippaverse, right? I wish them the best, and I'm glad that they've been able to form themselves to battle back against this culture war, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw this, but every now and then Eric July has a detractor on his show to talk about the Rippaverse, someone to try to just discredit it, and he invites him on all the time, and he actually welcomes the conversation, and each time he embarrasses this detractor person. After this show, I'll send you my favorite one because there's a certain part of it that you have to take a look at. After we're done right here, I'll send it to you.
Absolutely. I would love to see it because I mean, their entire argument is just stupid. It's illogical. It's based on nothing but lies and emotions. But let's go ahead and get into it because you know what? One of the things that really has hurt me per se is the fact of Disney. Disney. I grew up watching Disney since the 80s. I loved all of the animated films. From The Little Mermaid to The Lion King to Robin Hood to The Emperor's New Groove. There's Aladdin, right? Everything that Disney has done, I've absolutely loved. And over the past several years, Disney has decided to get involved in identity politics. And, and this obviously came from the BLM movement, but even more so behind that, they just started going woke. And so there's a very popular phrase that you and I are both familiar with, and it's "go woke, go broke." Well, I think that holds some validity when it comes to Disney. Let's go ahead and watch this video that Gary just posted yesterday.
Well, better yet, everything that's woke turns to shit. So yeah,
we could say that, but let's go ahead and watch the video.
Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all things must end. Call it a night. The party's over.
Nerdrotic.com.
We've all been there. Go to a party, partake in some of the amenities, have a really good time. Things get a little bit out of control, and then complete blackout. The next thing you know, you're waking up in the county jail, calling your dad, asking to bail you out. And he says no. And you ask yourself, what the hell did I do last night? That's currently what Hollywood is going through right now. And that has a lot to do with the current big mouse in Hollywood, Disney, which is a total disaster. Let's recap briefly. Yes, they fired their CEO in the middle of the night on a Sunday. They lost subscribers on Disney Plus for the first time. They also lost billions on that particular streaming service, which has yet to turn a profit. All on the heels of multiple Pixar flops. the monstrosity that was the MCU, and of course, we haven't seen a Star Wars film in the theaters since The Rise of Skywalker. Well, if you're a big Disney fan, I've got some bad news for you. And you're not? Well, I've got some good news for you. Things are going to get worse. Disney CEO Bobby Iger calls for newness in Marvel movies. What this means for the MCU's future, what this means is they are admitting failure while not learning anything from it. Disney CEO Bob Iger is no stranger to success, and again, he's going to be no stranger to failure in the movie industry. Under his leadership, Disney has enjoyed a string of hits, including destroying the Star Wars franchise. I put that in there. And currently destroying the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I also put that in there. However, in a recent speech, Iger hinted that the Marvel formula might need to be re-examined. I wonder what brought him to that conclusion. I'm sure it had nothing to do with Ant-Man 3 being an abysmal flop. Initially, that sounds good. I mean, get woke, go broke, right? But words are wind, and we are talking about Disney here. And as I've said before, when change comes, and it will, they will be the very last to the party if they show up at all. The CEO...
Let's stop right there. Go ahead. Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, what I was going to comment on that, we're like the new CEO, Bob Iger, who stepped down in 2020. I actually had the same opinion on that as Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers has, where like Bob Iger never really stepped down. He stepped down as the front man, but he was still the one pulling the strings from behind the scenes, so he wouldn't take all the blame for it. And Bob Chapek, the new CEO, quote unquote, would get all the heat from it. So I actually think that's what happened.
Gotcha. Either which way, based on the numbers that Gary showed with us, over $100 billion. When your company loses, and let's be real, Disney, in my eyes, Disney is an entertainment juggernaut. I never would have thought Disney would have lost that much in a single year. Now, it might be a drop in the bucket to Disney. I don't think it is. 100 billion is 100 billion. If you would have told me 100 million, I'd be like, that's a drop in the bucket. But 100 billion? That's a lot of money. They've got no choice but to re-examine and reevaluate what they're doing. The point is, here's the caveat. Are they going to reevaluate the right things? What are your thoughts?
No, they're not going to. Like it's still a giant agenda that they're trying to push. Like what Gary was referring to in that comment about the MCU, we're talking about like Bob Iger saying they need to re-examine it. Well, what he said was he thinks like, oh, we need to have a completely new team of Avengers and stuff like that. What he's really saying is like She-Hulk, Layla from Moon Knight. I'm talking about all these awful characters that are quote unquote. Let's just say, for our simple terms, we'll just put woke. We'll not put what they refer to them as. But it's a giant agenda driven thing. Like all these new male characters in the Marvel unit in the MCU. If you look at all of them real closely, all of them have been beta-ized to a certain point, to a certain extent. Moon Knight, he was actually not even the main focus of it. Layla, that female character, who, by the way, the character in the comics was a male, to be honest, and wasn't called Layla. So, and she was the forefront. Same thing with Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor was not the forefront character. It was all about Jane at the same time. And She-Hulk, too. Oh, my God, that show was awful. Like, how anyone greenlit that show, I have no idea. Like, all you have to look at is just the twerk scene. That's all you have to look at before anything. Like the big part that made me angry was how they beta-ized Daredevil. That was the big part that, oh my God, you have no idea how angry I was at that.
So that's the really interesting part. The thing is that from a business model, I don't understand what they're doing, right? And I'm a business guy, right? You are literally insulting the vast majority of your customer base, right? Because think about it, and let's look at the numbers and let's look at them logically. These are not these female characters, female counterparts like Jane Foster and She-Hulk, etc., right? They're not new characters, right? She-Hulk's been around since, if I'm not mistaken, the 70s. I know her first comic book was like in 1983, so she's been around. Let me ask you this question. How many female comic book collectors were there in the 70s and the 80s?
I mean, you have to assume there were some, but not nearly as many as there were male.
It's going to be close to zero. It'll probably be less than 1%, if any, at that time, right? Mm-hmm. Look at Wonder Woman. Linda Carter, she had her own show in the 70s. Everybody loved it. I love it. I did too. I had a huge crush on Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, right? And so the premise that these people are saying that they're calling us misogynistic because of these current shows that are failing and we're rejecting them is absolutely absurd. And we can see that because if we go back to the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, we all loved these characters, and they're a reason why they're on the big screen. It's not because of the feminists. It's because we maintained that character, right? We bought their comic books, right? I loved She-Hulk. I have She-Hulk comics, right? So the premise that it's misogyny is absolutely absurd when you look at the reality of the history, right?
Yeah. Like even though She-Hulk is like a green, like let's just say monster or whatever you want to call her, like in the old comics, like not to be a little freaky right here, but she was smoking in the original comics. I'll be the first one to say that.
Yeah,
so
she was sexy. She was sassy. She was spirited. Absolutely, she was attractive. All female comic book characters are attractive. I remember in the late '90s or mid '90s, Image Comics came out with a swimsuit issue of all of their female characters. I think Marvel did the same thing, and they were drawn. I mean, they were drawn for teenage boys, you know.
Like Scarlet Witch, Mystique, Rogue, all of them were very effeminate women, and they were sexy. That's the whole point. Guess what? When you have like sexy women in your comics, that's actually going to entice men to go out and buy them even more so. Like, yes, it's a little freaky when you look at it, but still at the same time, though.
But it's fantasy if you look at it, right? Because, I mean, even the superhero itself, it's fantasy, right? The reason why we lift weights is we want to look good, but we also want that superhero physique, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's it's fantasy in both ways. It's fantasy that, I want to look like the guy, and it's fantasy, hey, I'd like to have a girlfriend that looks like this this female superhero, right?
Yeah. Like I would never be with a woman that was probably like big and buff like that. No, but She-Hulk would be the only exception though. I'm serious.
But characters like She-Hulk and Wonder Woman, they're different because they're still feminine. They have muscle to them, but they're still feminine, right? And they naturally have to be that muscular because of who they are, right? She-Hulk is more than a regular woman, just like the Hulk is more than a regular guy. Same thing for Wonder Woman. She's an Amazon. She's not your average everyday, even in comparison to an athletic woman in today's day and age. Wonder Woman should be above that because she's an Amazon. So I mean, it fits.
And her father is Zeus of all
Absolutely.
people too.
So the premise that it's misogyny is absolutely false. It's absolutely not true. Let's get into some reasons or some examples as to why people like me and you who like source material stuff don't like this modern stuff and are a direct cause to that $120 billion loss that Disney's facing right now.
There's a few reasons you could get. Oh, you're gonna play this first?
Yeah. I'm gonna play this, and let's go into the details. But check this out. Again, this one's from Gary as well.
But at least it's inclusive, the first female Marvel OG to be character assassinated in her own film, written by someone who doesn't know how to read a comic book, Jack Schaefer.
I was not a comic reader, so I sort of came to them late. And on this project, I very much relied on my producer, Mary Lavanos, to be the sort of comic whisperer to me. She would like text me a cell to like be like, it's like this kind of thing. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, I get it. And sometimes I'd be like, that's Greek to me. I need you to explain it to my face.
I buy the same products you do.
So that's Greek to her. She's never read comics. So think about this. I don't even know. It's so stupid. How do you put somebody in charge of something that they don't know anything about? One of the things that made, let's go back to when comic book superheroes really became popular, and that's the early 2000s between X-Men and Spider-Man. X-Men by Sony, Spider-Man by Sony, X-Men by Fox, right? Why was one more popular than the other? Right? Because they don't even compare to one another. Spider-Man did so much better than X-Men did. X-Men by standards is mediocre. Why? Because you had Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi's been a Spider-Man fan, supposedly, from what I understand, since his teenage years. Since he was a boy, he loved Spider-Man. He loved Spider-Man, That's the key word, and he was able to direct it. Bryan Singer did not love the X-Men. Bryan Singer came to know about the X-Men when he got the job. And as he was reading it, and I think Hugh Jackman is on record for saying this guy did not allow people to read source material, meaning the actors. They were not allowed to read source material. Why? Because Bryan Singer was taking it in a different direction than the source material stuff, which we, the hardcore fans, did not like. And here you've got these folks doing it here now. Thoughts?
The only thing I'll say is that I actually like those first two X-Men movies. That's all I'll say on that. When you talk about,
did you go back and read the stuff beforehand?
I did not know about the Bryan Singer part. That part.
No. But did you read? So here's what I mean by that. Because did you ever see the Final Fantasy movie?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Did you play the Final Fantasy games?
I don't think so. I did.
Okay, so I didn't either. People who played the Final Fantasy games hated the Final Fantasy movie because it had nothing to do, it was nothing like the game. These are people that knew the source material and it was completely different. So if you don't understand X-Men, or if you didn't understand, like if you didn't watch the X-Men cartoons or collect the comic books, then you have nothing to compare it to. So therefore, of course, your view, your interpretation is going to be fresh and new. But it's somebody like me that I grew up reading the comics in the 80s, watching the cartoon in the 90s, and so on and so forth. I saw it, I'm like, what is this garbage? But go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine, man. Like, if you had to say that because my audio cut out. But what I was getting to, I had no idea about that part that Bryan Singer never allowed the actors to read the comics. I had no idea about that. But which actually kind of disappoints me, even though I actually love those first two X-Men movies. The first two, I'm unapologetic about that. I will say that forefront. I love the first two. Now, Last Stand, that's a different story. But yeah, it was awful. But what I was saying, I do like what Sam Raimi did with Spider-Man, because even though it wasn't exactly like the comics, but it was close enough, and it was amazing. Like, I still have fond memories of those first two Spider-Man movies. We all know about Spider-Man 3, but I don't think that's entirely on Sam Raimi's fault. Entirely, a lot of that had to do with Sony.
I don't think it's on him at all. I put 100% blame on Sony. Absolutely.
Because I did hear Sam Raimi say once that he should have just ignored them and just not put Venom in there. So I still think he had a choice. They were just pressuring him to put Venom in there. So
yeah, they actually threatened him, from what I remember back then, because this was that was a big thing back then when it came out. Like, it was really immediate. And from what I remember, a couple of years after, it's pretty recent that they had threatened him, and he was like, and he caved, basically, essentially based on their threats. But I don't have any proof of that. It's just what I heard.
If I were him, I just would have ignored them and just not put Venom in there. Because if you take Venom out, it's actually not that bad of a movie. I mean, it's not as good as the first two, but it's not that bad of a movie in my opinion.
Yeah, they did the same thing with the Batman, with the Christian Bale Batman. The studio, Warner Brothers, wanted him to put in Robin, and he refused. He's like, I'm not putting in Robin because this is supposed to be Batman, and it's supposed to be about his origins. It's supposed to be before Robin. So as a compromise, they brought in that actor that kind of was the detective that kind of is supposed to be Robin, right? That takes the mantle at the end of the movie. So there was a compromise, but likewise, the studio wanted to get involved and dictate how. Listen, if you've got hits like Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, which are arguably the two best comic book movies in franchise history, you leave the directors to be creative and leave them alone. If they flopped or they did bad, then you can come in and give your 2 cents. But if they produced platinum and gold, leave it alone.
Yeah, and like with Man of Steel, the same thing. I don't love Man of Steel. I just really enjoyed it, in my opinion. And like, Henry Cavill is my second favorite Superman. The only one who's obviously better is Christopher Reeves. We all know that. That's a separate conversation. But yeah, hence the way Henry Cavill and also Ben Affleck as Batman, who I really like him as Batman, they have been mistreated. Yeah.
I had to change that. I was against it, and I changed. Once I saw his performance, I said, you know what? This guy reminds me of the 90s Batman cartoon. Like, even with his squared face, it really did remind me of that type of Bruce Wayne, and it grew on me.
I thought Batman v Superman was awful. To me, that movie was just awful. But Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck were great in that movie.
Did you see the director's version of that, the extended version?
Zack Snyder's version of that movie. I liked it was better, but I still was not a huge fan of it. That's just me.
So let's get back to this video where we saw this director doesn't know anything about comics, doesn't know anything about the source material, directing something. I mean, are you, listen, let's say if you have a pet, are you going to take your pet to somebody who doesn't know anything about pets? No. I mean, I don't know how this is supposed to be their baby. This is, it frustrates me because I don't know who to blame, Disney or Marvel. I could understand Disney because it's not their, even though they own it, they didn't create it. But Marvel, they did create it. They should be like, listen, guys, this is our bread and butter. This is our goal. This is our baby. We need somebody with kid gloves, somebody who knows this stuff to really direct this, right?
Yeah. Well, another interesting thing about someone who didn't grow up with the source material, Michael Bay, when he directed the Transformers movie, he had no experience with Transformers. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Yeah, let's hold off on the Transformer. I want to hold that one off to the end. Let's view one more scene or another example of why their failure is happening.
Yeah.
Number 3, She-Hulk.
I'd actually like to take this time to thank my parents.
Oh my God. Oh, you know it's lad. I'm coming to kill you in Los Angeles at your house. A show that could have been the direct response to the MCU moniker ended up being the very definition of it. A sad attempt at a fourth wall breaking comedy that just ended up breaking one of Marvel's best female characters and Marvel. Instead of adapting the fun, sexy, and witty She-Hulk comic and writing a compelling law drama with levity, She-Hulk was made to own the haters, or what everyone outside of the Access Media in Hollywood called the paying customer.
I think even the trolls realize that by being nasty and negative, they're playing right into our hands, thereby proving that we are intelligent, which is the thing they don't want to admit that we ladies are. And it's kind of fun, you know?
I've got an idea.
And yes, this show includes yet another writer from Rick and Morty.
Was it always the plan to have toxic fandom as the season's villain?
You know, we started writing the show 3 years ago. Like, that's how long ago this all was. 3 years ago, I could tell you what you were going to say because you're just that predictable and boring.
Written by vapid narcissist single middle-aged wine aunts for vapid narcissist single middle-aged wine aunts who work in HR, perfecting the art of on-brand Disney Marvel character assassination, absolutely vandalizing and then destroying the Hulk, Wong, the Abomination, She-Hulk, and the worst crime against imagination, Daredevil.
There's some guy outside dressed in a devil costume and he's doing the walk of shame. Oh, you did with the... Oh.
Fan fiction.
It wouldn't be the MCU without the hero's journey, a female protagonist that starts out great and ends up great, and the entire journey is the rest of the cast figuring that out once they realize she was held down by the patriarchy. Of course, they had to change the origin because we can't have a female protagonist receiving power from a man or being mentored by a man. Gotta give showrunner Jessica Gao some credit, though, for attempting the impossible and swinging for the fences, trying to make a feminist comedy when we know they don't exist. Once again, a show specifically made to attack its paying customers, and when it was all said and done, it ended up being a fart in the wind. It dropped off the Nielsen charts, had horrific IMDb scores, Metacritic scores, and Rotten Tomatoes scores. And it was clear that the MCU had jumped the shark. But how could She-Hulk only be number 3? What could possibly be?
So Gary does a phenomenal job. I think he's the one who coined the phrase MCU. And
I think it was him.
According to him, it was him. So again, he does such a superb job at honing down. We've got an example of, number one, a person who doesn't know anything about the character, the source material, the industry, directing. That's flaw number one. Then number two, you're insulting your customer base. I mean, I don't understand from a business perspective how that makes any type of sense. Think about the people who sell Coke products. Imagine if they start insulting people who drink soda. Hello?
Well, they already have.
Well, I mean, but it doesn't make sense. In an insane world, this still doesn't even make sense because these are the people that are buying your product. I'm tired. Going back to, again, this isn't misogyny. This has to do with who your majority base customer is. Even at this juncture, 90% of their customer base are still men. So here you bring in female characters not to complement their male counterparts, but to belittle them based on their superiority, how smart they are, how much stronger they are, how much more intelligent they are, etc. You are belittling your customer base. Majority are men. And me personally, I'm not giving my money to be insulted.
Yeah, like when they basically said in the She-Hulk was that basically the villain are like toxic fandom, and basically that's the entire point of it. Like you're basically saying people who like more than 50% of your audience, like people I'm talking about on the right and left. So it's probably more people on the right that watch it than the left, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, it's 50-50. Okay. So you're insulting 50% of your customers. Like, I don't know about you, but if you run like a retail store or something like that, I'm pretty sure you don't want to insult 50% of your customers because of how much money you're going to lose. So why are you doing that with a TV show that you guys created?
Like, it's not just the TV show; it's the movie. It's the industry, right? Look at you mentioned Thor. It wasn't about Thor. It was more about Jane Foster. Jane Foster suddenly became bigger and better than Thor. Thor became a bumbling idiot, and in She-Hulk, right? You've got Hulk teaching her how to control or use her powers. No, she's got it all locked down. It's very reminiscent to Rey Skywalker. You've got Anakin Skywalker, who was created by midichlorians, right? Who's supposed to be one of the most powerful Jedis, and even he still needed training, but yet Rey somehow doesn't need training. She can do the Jedi mind trick on Kylo Ren, who has training, but because she's so much more powerful, she could do it on him, and she doesn't need training. She's already the best. It's stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah. And it was basically implying that Anakin was no longer the chosen one anymore. Because remember, it says it's the prophecy of the Jedi that will destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Apparently, Anakin never brought balance to the Force because Palpatine never died or whatever not. So it was Rey who destroyed the Sith. So she's, by definition, the chosen one. So you basically ruined Star Wars. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, as much as I love Optimus Prime, but Darth Vader is my all-time favorite character in any media form. I'm sorry, but he just is. And he gets of how much of a badass he is. And there are times like in Empire Strikes Back where, even though it's not right, but you still kind of root for him in a way against Luke in that final lightsaber fight. This is how cool he is. And plus his origins in the prequels was amazing all the way from his downfall when he became evil because he was trying to save his wife. And then at the end of the day, what he was trying to do to save his wife is what killed her. And then his son is the one who brought him back to the light. But even though he died at the very end, his son was the one who got him to change his mind. When he saw his son about to die, he makes one final choice. Even though it kills him, he makes the choice to destroy the Sith and kill Palpatine and bring balance to the Force. But Disney, for whatever reason, because of their agenda, they decided to flip that around.
Yeah, every female character was big and strong. I mean, we've seen Leia. We saw Leia in the second one. I forgot what it's called, but somehow was it the second one? Yeah,
Empire Strikes Back.
No, not episode. I'm talking about episode 8, where she gets blasted out of the ship and somehow she uses the Force. She's in outer space.
Leia.
Yeah, it's Leia. She uses the Force to pull herself back into the ship, even though she's in outer space, and she uses the Force in a way that we've just never seen her use before. And it's just so stupid. It boggles my mind. And what they're doing is they're ruining franchises that are like, I mean, Star Wars has been around since '77. You didn't need to do anything but continue. Listen, I have a phrase: if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. And I don't even think they tried to fix it. They just want to change it so they can push their agenda. And it's sad because you don't need to do it. You can absolutely write strong female characters. Female characters are nothing new. I mentioned it in in my podcast before on the other channel, Xena the Warrior Princess. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
Strong female lead. You have Sigourney Weaver as Ripley in Alien. Strong female lead, right? There's and I can go further and further. I just don't have them written down.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Leia was no wimp. I mean, she wasn't a warrior, but she wasn't a wimp either. She was really strong. Yeah, she was gutsy, man. Are you kidding me? So you have a multitude of strong female characters in the 80s, 90s, and again, Linda Carter back in the 70s, right? She wasn't a wimp. So you don't need to belittle men in order for you to write a strong female character. Look at Ahsoka Tano from the Star Wars animated series. I mean, who doesn't like Ahsoka Tano? And did she ever once say how it's because she's a woman, it's because she's strong, it's because she's better? No, she started as a Padawan. She started really imperfect, and we see her grow as a Jedi, and that's what we want to see. We just want to see good storytelling, good character development.
Yeah, and like when you mentioned The Last Jedi, I almost walked out of that movie. I literally almost did because of how awful it was. Like, not just like with what they did to Luke in there, like, oh my God. Like, that was not Luke in that movie. No. And even Mark Hamill knows that was not Luke.
So here's the funny thing. There's this guy named Critical Drinker, and
I love him.
He has some really good information. He goes the 5 steps of I guess wokeness or whatever. But let's check him out real quick.
Yeah. Oh, He-Man. Oh my God, I know.
Anyway, the more I thought about that show, the resulting fan backlash and tidal wave of negative reviews, and the excuses and personal attacks made by the show's creators, the more I realised that it's just another example of the same pattern that plays out whenever someone decides to remake an old IP. As I observed in a tweet the other day, you can break this kind of franchise vandalization down into 5 easy steps. Step 1. Find a once popular franchise that hasn't seen any activity in a while, but still retains a loyal fan base you can exploit for cash. Step 2. Announce that a remake/reboot/revival is on the way, and confidently declare that it's for the fans. Step 3. Remove most of the key components that made it popular in the first place, and fill the gaps with a mixture of unlikable new characters and a heavy dose of identity politics. Step 4. Blame the resulting fan backlash on a small group of toxic trolls and reactionary man-babies, and dismiss negative reviews as an organised campaign orchestrated by the usual collection of ists and phobes. Step 5. Confidently declare that all fan bases are unwilling to accept change and growth, then move on to the next franchise and circle back to step 1.
Not a great plan.
They say...
So, I mean, he nails it. He nails it.
That was funny right there.
He nails it.
Yeah.
His 5 steps, he nails it. That's exactly what they keep doing over and over again. I mean, we just heard it in Gary's video, how they made toxic fans the villain. It's not toxic fans, it's fans. The reason your movie or your character, the reason why you have that job is because of people like me that grew up on it. We've delved money, time, our lives into it. In some instances, it was an escape of reality from the pain of whatever we were going through. Like, I got involved in comics when my parents got divorced. That helped me not focus on the pain of my parents' divorce, and it kind of helped me refocus and enjoy something. It was an escape for me. So to see these people do this and call me toxic and make fun of me, why do I want to give my money to it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Like, did you also hear about the Velma show? Did you at least hear about it? I know you didn't watch. I know that for a fact, but
I love He-Man. I didn't watch He-Man. I'm not watching this garbage. But
oh my God, like I was watching someone who went on Tim Pool's podcast, and they were actually talking about the Velma show, and he said he has a theory of not just what's happened with all of this kind of stuff. Like, he has a theory that in the future, we're not going to be able to watch all these past stuff that's the original stuff we've been watching. At least at a certain point, there's going to be a cutoff where you're not going to even be able to watch it, or they're going to be at least be edited in some way. Like, you're not going to be watching Shakespeare in the future. You're not going to be reading Mark Twain. You're not going to be watching, like, for instance, the original Transformers show or the original Star Trek show, and so on and so on. His theory is that everything will be changed to fit with the current culture they're trying to change. And you're not going to be able to watch the original stuff so you can fit in with the new society that they're trying to create. That was his theory that he had.
It's a theory, and it's sad if they do that. And I hope there's pushback, and there needs to be pushback. And hopefully this sign that Disney lost $120 billion is an indicator. I hope if it's true that they're not going to change direction, they're just going to, like, reimagine things or bring in new characters, but not really understand why they lost $120 billion. I hope they lose another $120 billion in 2023.
Mm-hmm. They're going to lose something. I don't know how much, like, because I'm not a business analyst, but if I had to take a guess, they probably would lose more.
Let's see. You know what we have to do as either conservatives or people, or just people that are against this push, if you will, because listen. How can I put it? If we've got to stop buying their stuff. That's the only way these people are going to change, right? If they continue to see the decline. Obviously, Disney laid off a couple months ago, or I think at the beginning of this year, 7,000 employees. I feel sorry for those employees, but you know what? Their company has done things. They're changing everything. They're swapping genders. They're swapping backgrounds and skin colors, and it's stupid. And I would equally oppose it if they did it in reverse. For example, and I've said this before, if they, not that they're going to do it, but if Black Panther was suddenly made South African, right, and he's white. That's never going to happen. I would equally oppose it because that's not what the source is. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, like it's going to get even, like when you say that if we stop buying it, that's going to make them change. No, it's not, because
it has to. It has to, because nobody can sustain a business on an idea. You have to have money. How many articles have you seen these articles of these woke restaurants that do woke policies, and within a year or two they fail because it's not business. You cannot run business on feelings. You have to run business on numbers.
Yeah. Well, for instance, Disney they're a major company. If for instance we stop buying all this stuff, at least conservatives, like at the end of the day, when you look at it, they're still going to continue doing this. Why? Because they're being funded by all these elitist groups that's giving them billions and billions of dollars each year. So it's not going to have much of an effect.
And then you have also the normies that are contributing. But look, $120 billion loss is getting Bob Iger to reevaluate things, right? Again, what they reevaluate is different, but it's getting them to look at the numbers and be like, remember, they still have stakeholders. They still have to answer to the people that are contributing, right? Investing, right? The investors. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about other things that are failing, because I think there's a shift. Yeah. Hollywood movies are trending downward, not only in ticket sales, and in some cases, their overall how much they're bringing in, right? Maybe they get a quick swing up first, but then it's a dramatic downgrade. And let's take a look at this particular article that I have here. This is from Forbes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is talking about the Shazam 2 movie. Now, this is Warner Brothers, not necessarily Disney, but it's talking about the sequel film, and it looks like it's projecting. It made less than what it projected. It made $30.5 million versus an expectation of 35 to 40 million. So that's, by Hollywood standards, that's a failure.
Yeah, something like that. The stat says $30.11 million. Let's just say it's average about that. Like, I believe the budget, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's around 125 million, somewhere around that range. And a movie needs to make at least double to break even, because like the theaters, they still take about a third of the ticket sales. So technically, my mistake, not a half, probably 75% more, because the theater sales take a third of it. That's losing a lot of money, man. That's
not only that, you have advertisement and all that stuff. But here's when you contrast that to what the first movie did, it brought in 53.5 million, right, opening weekend. So this movie, just by regular comparison, is a lot less. You've got 30 million versus 53 million, right? That's a huge loss of money for them, and they can't use C-19 as an excuse as to why this movie did bad. Here's my theory. Here's my thought process. You're putting out garbage. You keep pandering to the 1%. And it's going to keep costing you. That's just my theory and my feeling.
Yeah. To be honest, I actually did see the movie. I did. I'll admit that. The reason is because I didn't have anything to do, and I just wanted to do something, go out there after work. I watched the movie. The movie was fine. I actually enjoyed it until one scene. It was the scene where Shazam and his family, they admitted to their parents that they're superheroes. and one of the kids says that he's gay. That was the only moment right there. Because I mean, like, was it set up? Like, you did see a scene where he was looking at magazines. You did see that, but like, there was no need for it to be in that scene right there. You can imply it, but there's no need to like just come out flat out and say it.
They did that in the first one. They implied it when they get teleported into the strip club, and then the Hispanic kid, he's like, when they get out of it, he's like, yeah, it's not really my thing. So they implied it in the first one. I don't know if you caught that or not. My wife and I watched the movie the other day, and I caught it for the first time. I was like, oh, I didn't catch that the first time.
I didn't either.
Again, this is all unnecessary. Not only is that entire movie, it's like the Eternals, because I don't really know much about the stories of Captain Marvel, Shazam, right? I just know him from the cartoons. So I don't know if these people they're based on Greek mythology, from what I understand. I don't know. I don't know a lot of like different colored people in Greece. They're pretty much all white, from what I know, right? So the entire movie it's DC's version of the Eternals, to be honest with you.
Well, technically, DC's version of the Eternals would be the New God, but they canceled that movie. Good riddance, because of the team that they had to put behind it. But let's just say, but yeah, back to the Shazam family. I actually, outside of that, I actually enjoyed the movie to a certain degree, but it was that moment, man, that took me out of the movie for a bit.
Well, for me, I said, I stopped as of last year, the year before. I think it was the year before. My family and I, my kids, we all four of us unanimously agreed we would not be giving our money anymore to a company that tells me I'm inferior, that belittles me, that makes me seem like I'm an idiot, and worse off, seems to be racist towards white people. Even though I'm Hispanic, my skin color is pretty light, and so I'm short to the left. There's no difference from me to a white person. So you're essentially insulting me in a sense, and I just won't stand for that. Why am I going to give money to that?
Yeah, me, I was bored, so I just decided to just go watch it. I had nothing to do, so yeah.
I'm not criticizing you or anything like that, but I'm just talking about me personally. And the only way we're going to get these people to change any type of course, or at least rethink their agenda, is to, honestly, it's the pocketbook, it's the money. I don't know how long $120 billion loss is sustainable as a business, right? You do the first year and you try and go, all right, let's reanalyze things, but by the second year, if you lose 120 billion again or more, you've got to start sounding the alarms there.
Yeah, and Bob Iger, when he was re-elected as CEO, which I don't think he actually was, I think he was always the CEO behind the scenes. That's just an opinion. I can't prove that, but that's just my opinion. But he said in like the interview, when he was asked about the Florida situation, he says, well, now that I'm in, we're going to try to remain neutral. We're not going to try to get involved in politics or anything like that, which I find that to be a bunch of load of crap is what he's saying.
Remember, the left is really good with changing words. So to them, if you think about things that are woke, like, the transgender specific topic, to them, that's not identity politics, right? So he could be, gaslighting, right?
Well, last year, when Bob Chapek was still the CEO, he wanted because he was being woke himself. But nonetheless, he was actually trying to move a bunch, like 7,000 people out of California to Florida, and the people that back refused against that, and Disney apologized to it. Well, good riddance, because actually, since you're in Florida, I'm pretty sure you're glad, because you don't want any more wokesters coming down there. So yeah.
Nope. I really don't. So not only has Marvel and Warner Brothers gone woke, right, and they're suffering for it, thankfully, but Hasbro has also decided to go woke as well. Let's talk about their upcoming movie called Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I've got an article here where they're introducing their first transgender character.
Is this article real?
It is real. It is real. RC, supposedly, from what I understand, RC is going to be their first transgender character.
She's a robot. How does that work?
I don't know, man. I miss the days. I miss the old days where we were focused on good versus evil and not identity politics. Like, I just finished watching a Mojo, even though Mojo is leftist, right? Mojo.com or something like that. They do like top 10, top 20 shows. They're leftists as well, but they were showing like the top 20 episodes of the Justice League, the animated series. And there's one where they go back in time or to an alternate reality with superheroes from like the 60s. There were 5 superheroes that made up like this alternate Justice League. They were all white. And John Stewart, is a black Green Lantern, he's looking at these guys and he's like, the reason I'm a superhero is because of these guys.
Allow us to introduce ourselves. Justice Guild, roll call. Catman.
Black Siren.
Green Guardsman. Tom Turbine. The Streak.
Teleported to a picturesque world, Green Lantern and company encounter heroes straight out of the silver and golden age of comics.
I know it sounds corny, but those comics taught me what it meant to be a hero.
Naturally, not everything is as happy-go-lucky as it seems, and soon it's revealed that this world of yesteryear is nothing more than a grim illusion brought about by suffering and trauma. Goes to show that despite their corny exterior, the classics of the genre can still hit just as hard as they did back then.
That's where we were prior to this woke stuff happening, right? He didn't need to see the same skin color to be able to relate and identify. He just needed to see good character value. That's all he needed to see. I miss those days.
Yeah, and Jon Stewart in that show was one of my favorite characters. He was like, I still think, Batman was still my favorite one, but I believe I would have Jon Stewart probably number 2 and number 3 between him and Superman.
I really dislike what the left has done to pop culture. I dislike what the left has done to our society in general. The whole representation and diversity and inclusivity, it's all stupid because all of that stuff was already there. And if you're the type of person that you need to sit there and say, I need this person to sound like me, look like me, be like me to relate, you're the actual racist, you're the actual bigot. Because it's all of these stories are simply just a matter of good versus evil. And there's good and evil in all of us.
Yeah, there is. No questions asked. But how does this even make sense, though, with RC, though? I don't understand that.
I don't know.
She's a robot.
And she's one of my favorite characters, too. Ever since the 80s and she was first introduced, I was like, cool, female Autobot, yes! I loved it because they were just about all men. And to have that change up, they did have an episode where they had 3 female Autobots in season 1 up on Cybertron, but they weren't part of the cast. So when RC actually got introduced in the 1986 movie, I loved it. I loved her.
Yeah. And by the way, in the G1 movie and show, she was able to hold her own, but she did still at times need either Springer or Hot Rod or Rodimus to actually help her in certain situations.
Yeah,
still the traditionalism stuff.
She was a valued asset to the team, but there were times where she was the damsel in distress. That's no different than when Bumblebee would get in trouble because of his size, right? Bumblebee had a lot of courage, but Bumblebee often found himself biting off more than he can chew because of his size. RC, in a sense, could hold her own, was a savior at some times, was definitely a key contributor, but there were times where she couldn't because she was going up against mainly male counterparts. And that's the problem with the left. They don't recognize the biological differences between a male and a female. They believe that we're all equal. We're equal in value. Yes, absolutely. But we're not equal in size, in strength, in speed. On average, we tend to be bigger, stronger, and faster. That's reality, and these people can't stand these modern feminists, because a traditional feminist is different. Modern feminists hate the fact that we are built this way. That's why they go against anything that resembles normal biology.
Yeah, for whatever reason they're trying to do, So I take it you and your family are not going to go see the new Transformers.
I am not now. I'm opted out.
Yeah. I wanted to actually take my sister to see a Transformers movie. You've seen her before. When I post some stuff. Not anymore. I'm not.
Nope. I'm opting out. I'll wait till it comes up on some streaming service that I'm already on, or something like that, or whatever. But I'm not giving my money to this stuff. Listen, you want to make a transgender movie? Make a transgender movie. It is what it is. But don't embed it in things that kids are going to go see, so that you can start manipulating them and confusing them in a way that is not normal and not natural.
Or here's another thing: instead of doing it with a character that we've already seen, create a new character like that.
They can't, because it won't make money.
No one will care.
Nobody will watch it. Nobody will watch it. That's why they don't do it. That's why they don't do it.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing. Not only that, but probably, like Gary pointed out, these people, they're doing it to piss us off. And at the end of the day, it's costing them money. So it's up to them whether they want to keep losing money. My advice to every single person watching this: if you are against this, whether you're in the middle, whether you're on the right, whatever the case may be, because if you're on the left, forget it. Stop giving your money to this. We've got to take a stand. The only way these people are going to even have an attempt to change course is through their losses. Loss and profit is what corporate America is all about. I know that firsthand. So if they have losses, they'll start to pay attention, they'll start to question. But if they continue to have profits because of us, and we're sitting and moaning and groaning and complaining, it does nothing. All it keeps doing is keep giving them power. So we need to stop it.
Yeah, and did you see what I sent you? Was it like a week ago about Disney possibly changing the Punisher logo, taking it away or something like that? All because there were like a few people that were in the Capitol on January 6th that had the logo on their chest, literally on their clothing. My mistake. Like, okay, that's just a character. What does that have to do with what the people who are in the Capitol have to do with the character, the Punisher? And the Punisher is one of my all-time favorite characters of all time, by far. I love the Punisher. And by the way, the Punisher, what he does, he kills criminals. That's what his goal is, because he lost his whole family, and he uses the skull as what his wrath will bring to criminals. He's trying to put fear into the criminals on the hearts. And that's what he does when he's trying to kill them.
Yeah. So according to this article, Marvel to replace the Punisher over controversial logo. Because they adapted, a lot of people on the right adapted this and kind of put the American flag overlay on it and used that as a symbol, I guess, against corruption, if you will, or illegalities, or maybe even just strength. I don't know. I really don't. I've seen it, but I don't really understand it. But either which way, this is the Punisher's logo. This is his logo. This is his emblem. How are you going to change that?
And not just in the comic books, but also, this new Daredevil series that's coming out, which I lost a lot of interest after seeing how they handled Daredevil and She-Hulk. But the Punisher, who was in the original Netflix series, Jon Bernthal is coming back to play the Punisher. And Jon Bernthal did say after January 6th that he disagreed. He doesn't think that the logo should be changed, because what Frank, that's what the Punisher's real name is. What he stands for does not stand for what people who went to the Capitol stand for. At least those certain people. But you get the general idea what I mean on the January 6th thing.
But even still, I'm surprised that they even want to do this character, because he kills, and he's an anti-hero, and he has a slew of guns. These people are anti-gun. They're anti-Second Amendment. They want to love everybody. So it's fascinating that they would even highlight this type of a character for them. It's a little contradictory and hypocritical in my opinion, but it is what it is. I'm not watching it, so I don't really care at this juncture. I hope it fails.
Yeah. And the Punisher, he's obviously not going to be rated R as he's supposed to be, because that's who the Punisher is. He's supposed to be like this hardcore guy who literally beat people to death just because, and he's going to be toned down.
They got to save everybody now. Remember, we just talked about it with Spider-Man 3. They got to save everybody. Everybody's soul has to be redeemed. You'd think these people are into some type of religion. I don't even believe that as a Christian. There's some people that can't be redeemed. As a matter of fact, most people, according to the Bible, most people aren't going to be redeemed, because most people are going to reject God. So,
yeah, I've gotten more into Christianity ever since I've been talking to you a lot more.
Good, man.
Yeah, I've been spiritual, I've told you plenty of times beforehand. But after having private conversations with you, I've gone more into it. Also with my cousin, who's a preacher. I've been talking to him a lot about it as well.
Good. Faith. The Bible says that faith comes from hearing, and hearing the word of God. So I just continue to encourage you to get into that word and continue reading it and studying it, dissecting it, and devouring it.
Yeah, I just haven't gone to church in a while though. That's the only thing.
If you can't do it physically, I can send you a link to my church where we do streaming online, so you can watch it, and we upload it on YouTube, so you can watch it at your leisure.
Sure. I'll think about that more. So yeah, unless I can find one around here. Like you told me you're non-denominational. That's what I've been actually leaning more towards. Actually, that's what I have been leaning towards. To be honest.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Hey man, so listen, I want to thank you for coming on to the show and being a guest. I really enjoyed our podcast tonight. This is it's like I said, pop culture has been big in my life since I was a little boy. It's been important, so it's a good topic to discuss. And I like I said, I dislike what the left is doing to it. They've basically destroyed it for me. They're destroying it for my kids too. My kids, I've raised them on it, and we're actually going through the Spider-Man '90s cartoon, and they're loving it. Every time they come on, like, Dad, can we watch another episode? So I mean, it's so sad and tragic to see where it's going.
Oh, and speaking of that, in the '90s Spider-Man cartoon, Black Cat was one of the most feminist characters of all time in the show. She was sexy and everything.
There was a lot of.
That's the kind.
It was. Look at the X-Men cartoon from the '90s. You had prominent. Storm was kick butt. Jean Grey was Rogue, the most powerful X-Men in that series. How can you tell me we're misogynistic and make it's absolutely absurd? But anyhow, go ahead, man. Go ahead, give us your closing statement.
One second before that, how they're coming out with a sequel series to the '97 X-Men series. Well, actually, not a sequel series; they're actually continuing it.
Yep,
I have no interest.
I have none. Eric July did a video on that, and he showed how the director is a major leftist, anti-Trump hater. So I know that that's going to be big, giant woke left garbage, and I'm not going to watch it.
But yeah, man, thanks for allowing me to come on your show, because I haven't done a collab with you on your show in a while. I've only done it once with Osiris. Like, maybe sometime again, all three of us can get together, just the three of us.
Absolutely, man. Like, well, I'll be doing these more often now that I have more time on my hands, so we'll definitely collab more. Hey, Ray Infinity Studios, guys, I'll put a link.
It's actually it's the Ray Infinity Show.
The Ray Infinity Show. So I'm gonna add a link to the description below, and everybody can check you out, give you a like, give you a subscribe, and hopefully you'll increase your viewership.
Yeah, well, try to put my Rumble link there. I'll send you my Rumble link. That's what I want to be focusing on.
You got it, buddy. All right, my friend. Until next time, take care, guys. Everybody, God bless. God bless America.
God bless America.